South Korea has now broken its own record for the world's lowest fertility rate. The country already has more deaths than births every year. Why is that? Why are couples in Korea not having children? What are the factors driving this demographic collapse of one of the world's most developed nations? Once celebrated as an economic miracle, South Korea emerged from the ruins of war to become a global powerhouse, a nation brimming with optimism, community, and growing families. But fast forward to today, and the picture has dramatically changed. South Korea is now at the epicenter of a demographic crisis with the lowest birth rate in the world. How did this happen, and what's being done to reverse it? The story begins in the aftermath of the Korean War. In the 60s and 70s, South Korea experienced rapid industrialization, turning it into an economic powerhouse. Families were large, with 3 or more children being the norm. Traditional Confucian values emphasized family as the cornerstone of society, where raising children was both a joy and a duty. During this time, communities were tightly knit. Extended families provided robust support for child rearing, and gender roles were clearly defined. Men worked outside, women managed households, and single incomes could sustain large families. Today, the vibrant families of the past are fading into history. South Korea's fertility rate stands at just 0.72 children per woman, the lowest in the world. For comparison, the replacement rate needed to maintain a stable population is 2.1. If this trend continues, South Korea's population is projected to halve by the year 2100. The implications are staggering: an aging society, shrinking labor force, economic stagnation, and the erosion of cultural traditions. But how did we get here? Several cultural and economic shifts have contributed to this demographic disaster. First, the cost of living has soared. Housing prices, particularly in Seoul, are among the highest in the world. Education, a cornerstone of Korean society, has become a financial burden. Private tutoring, or hagwon culture, consumes a significant portion of household income. Second, evolving gender roles have changed the family dynamic. Women now pursue higher education and careers at unprecedented rates. But society still places disproportionate expectations on them to handle childcare and household responsibilities. This double burden has led many women to delay or completely forego marriage and children. Work culture is another critical factor. South Korea is known for its grueling hours, leaving little room for family life. The pursuit of career success often comes at the expense of personal milestones. Finally, a growing movement among young people, particularly women, is rejecting traditional norms. The 4B philosophy reflects their frustration with societal pressure to conform to outdated roles. Let's dig into hagwon culture, or private tutoring, for a moment. What is it, and what is the pros and cons of this for the country? Referring to the widespread and deeply ingrained practice of private education through after-school academies called hagwons, these institutions are an integral part of South Korea's highly competitive education system and societal values that emphasize academic excellence and success. These private academies offer specialized tutoring in subjects like math, English, science, arts, and music. They also provide test preparation for major exams like the CSAT. Many hagwons cater to younger children with lessons in reading, writing, or early education. One of the reasons why they are so popular is because South Korea's education system is extremely competitive. Academic success is often seen as a key determinant of future opportunities, and hagwons are considered a key way for students to gain an edge in university admissions and exams. Students often attend hagwons after regular school hours, sometimes late into the night. It's common for students to study at hagwons until 9 or 10 p.m. The government has, even occasionally, enforced curfews to limit the operation hours of hagwons to reduce the pressure on students. Parents invest heavily in their children's education, often spending significant portions of their income on hagwons. This education fever reflects societal pressure to ensure children succeed academically. While many hagwons focus on academics, there are also academies for sports, music, art, coding, and even hobbies like cooking or gaming. Some specialize in language proficiency exams like TOEFL and IELTS. So why is this a bad thing? Many argue that the reliance on hagwons add unnecessary stress to students' lives. Access to hagwons is also quite costly, creating disparities in opportunities between affluent and lower income families. Critics also claim that with an overemphasis on grades, the culture reduces focus on creativity, critical thinking, and well-being. The government has made efforts to curb reliance on hagwons, such as regulating fees and hours of operation, and policies promoting public school improvement aim to reduce the need for supplemental education. Many students achieve exceptional academic results, with South Korea ranking highly in global education metrics. The intense focus on education contributes to mental health issues, including anxiety and burnout among students. Hagwon culture is a defining aspect of South Korea's education system, reflecting the country's broader values of hard work, ambition, and the pursuit of excellence. But this is not the only cultural aspect that is driving the crisis. We will now look at the growing movement among young Korean women called the 4B philosophy, or 4 No's. This radical shift in cultural attitudes has been gaining momentum over the past decade, especially among millennial and Gen Z women, and it has profound implications for South Korea's future. So what exactly is the 4B philosophy? At its core, the movement represents a rejection of 4 traditional pillars of life in South Korea. Bihon, no marriage. Bi-julsan, no childbirth. Bi-yonai, no romantic relationships with men. And even Bi-seong, no sexual relationships. If you think this sounds absurd, you are not alone. It's almost as if they are trying to destroy society and the progress of the nation by only focusing on themselves, like a demonstration or an opt-out of sorts. But the question is, why? Why is the 4B philosophy resonating with so many people in South Korea? To grasp why, we need to explore the societal pressures faced by Korean women. For decades, South Korea has been a nation built on Confucian values, emphasizing family, filial duty, and hierarchical gender roles. Women were traditionally expected to sacrifice their personal ambitions for the sake of their families, taking on the roles of devoted wives, nurturing mothers, and dutiful daughters-in-law. While South Korea's rapid economic growth brought opportunities for education and employment, the cultural expectations for women didn't evolve at the same pace. Women are now highly educated and career-focused, but still expected to bear the brunt of unpaid domestic labor, caregiving, and even financial support for aging parents. For many, the prospect of balancing these pressures with the demands of modern life feels untenable. This dissatisfaction is compounded by South Korea's rigid corporate culture, where work-life balance is almost non-existent. The pali-pali or hurry-hurry culture of South Korea's economy demands long hours and relentless productivity. Women often find themselves excluded from promotions or pressured to leave their jobs after becoming mothers, a phenomenon called the glass cliff. Beyond the workplace, marriage itself has become increasingly unappealing. A survey by Statistics Korea revealed that over 60% of unmarried women in their 20s and 30s believe marriage is unnecessary. They cite high costs, the lack of equitable partnerships, and the loss of personal freedom as reasons to avoid it altogether. The 4B philosophy is not just an individual choice, it's a quiet rebellion against systemic inequality. These women are choosing independence over societal expectations, rejecting the roles of wife, mother, or caregiver. This shift has significantly impacted South Korea's birth rate, which has now fallen to 0.72 children per woman, the lowest in the world. The economic consequences of this movement are already visible. South Korea faces a shrinking workforce and an aging population, threatening its economic stability. Entire industries, from childcare to wedding planning, are struggling to adapt to these changing cultural dynamics. The 4B philosophy has sparked intense debates in South Korea. And it's not just older generations raising concerns. Some younger men have started anti-4B campaigns, claiming that the philosophy unfairly demonizes men and undermines relationships. These tensions highlight the deep generational and gender divides within South Korea today. Despite the controversy, the 4B philosophy has forced South Korea to confront its cultural blind spots. Policymakers are now grappling with how to make marriage and parenthood more appealing. Some initiatives include expanding parental leave, offering cash incentives for childbirth, and promoting workplace equality. But is it enough? Supporters of the 4B movement argue that these efforts are just band-aid solutions. What's truly needed, they say, is a deeper societal transformation, a shift away from rigid gender roles, a rejection of toxic work cultures, and a focus on building equitable partnerships. Whether the 4B philosophy is a lasting cultural shift or a temporary movement, one thing is clear. South Korea's young women are redefining what it means to live a fulfilling life. The declining birth rate has far-reaching consequences. South Korea now has one of the fastest aging populations in the world. Over 18% of the population is aged 65 or older, putting immense strain on healthcare and pension systems. The shrinking workforce threatens economic productivity, while younger generations face increasing financial burdens to support the elderly. Rural areas are being abandoned, turning once thriving villages into ghost towns. The South Korean government is taking bold steps to tackle the crisis. Financial incentives such as cash bonuses for childbirth, childcare subsidies, and expanded parental leave aim to ease the burden of raising children. Housing affordability is another focus. Initiatives to provide affordable housing for young families are being implemented, though challenges remain. The government is also opening its doors to immigration as a potential solution. While this is a significant cultural shift, it could offset population decline and diversify South Korean society. Experts suggest that long-term solutions require deeper cultural and systemic changes. Investing in free or highly subsidized childcare could make parenting more accessible. Creating a work culture that prioritizes work-life balance is essential to giving families time to thrive. Breaking down societal stigmas around non-traditional families and single parenting is another vital step. Public campaigns can help normalize diverse paths to parenthood. Reforming the education system to reduce the financial and emotional burden of raising children is critical. A less competitive environment could encourage families to have more children. Finally, embracing immigration can help address labor shortages and enrich South Korea's cultural landscape. South Korea's birth rate crisis is a stark reminder of the challenges modern societies face. While the road ahead is difficult, the resilience and innovation of its people provide hope. By balancing tradition with progress, South Korea can pave the way for a brighter, more sustainable future. How do you think South Korea can overcome its population crisis? Share your thoughts in the comments below, and please consider watching one of these two videos next.